Hello and welcome to the Stringfellow April 2023 webinar and podcast. Our topic this month is Zero Trust and Why It Matters, Protecting Patient Data and Enhancing Security. I'm joined again with Edward Stringfellow today. Say hi, Edward.
Hello, how's everyone doing today?
Doing good, doing good. I think this is a really important topic, but if anybody else is like me, they may be, a little confused as far as to what Zero Trust is and why it matters. So I think we've titled this appropriately. So let's just get right into what zero
Yeah,
trust is.
yeah, I think that I
Let us
think
know.
that'll be helpful. First of all, zero trust is not probably what maybe potentially some of your past relationships have been like, or maybe it is. That's not what we're talking about today. What we are talking about though is how to effectively protect, your information and access to your systems, which typically means patient data and PHI that many providers are have in their practices and are obligated to take care of. So when we talk about cybersecurity in healthcare, I mean it can look like this. Like there can be the landscape. It can just be there's so much. It can be really really overwhelming. So today we're really going to focus in on just part of it, and that's what this concept of zero trust. And we're going to kind of walk you through what that looks like. I think it's important to point out though, you know, that there's some very unique challenges with cybersecurity in healthcare, right? Unlike just what we would call general businesses, non-regulated businesses, there are some very stiff fines and penalties if PHI is leaked. I think it currently is $10,000 a record. So there's some financial impact to not doing some of these things. The flip side is it should be possible to justify getting some of these things put in place because you do get a return on investment. So a lot of groups go, well, we're not doing this today. It's like, well, we hadn't had an attack yet, but if an attack would cost X and we can spend not X but way less, the return on investment is there. So there's definitely a value to understanding it and doing these types of things. Obviously, ransomware, we hear about it every day. Literally, I think Microsoft and another group, announced a partnership to stop this ransomware group from attacking a couple of hospital systems. So it's going on. It's going on a lot. Daniel, anything to add on the healthcare landscape before we kind of dive into the more tech details?
Well, I just want to say, I've got this corporate firewall. I mean, look, I put a lot of money in that firewall and I'm really proud of it. And it's awesome, like nothing can get through my corporate
It
firewall, right?
it so it's funny you say that. Your corporate firewall, let's not say it's useless, but that is the old model, Daniel. So it used to be we would build, so it's not in this picture, but we build our kingdom and we put our moat, we put all our valuable stuff in our treasure chest, and then we put the treasure chest in the castle, and then we build a moat around the castle, then we have a firewall. To access our treasure chest, we had to go to the castle. Well, guess what? Now people access the data, the treasure from everywhere. So
Yeah.
you might have a provider that is at multiple rural clinics, coming back into the central data. You might have a provider at home potentially catching up on charting. Mobile devices are prolific now, so they could be anywhere. So the reality is this firewall literally protects generally a location and one in which we're typically not in. So while firewalls, we're not throwing them out, that is a firewall is really not part of what we would consider a zero trust model. So when we're talking, about what does it look like? What does zero trust really? What are the inputs or the signals is a good term for that. So a firewall, it just kind of say, hey, where are you coming from, and yes or no, but it doesn't really have any intelligence. The zero trust model says, hey, who are you? So what user are you? What's your location, right? And has your location. So that the cool thing with zero trust is actually the reason that it's even possible is really AI. It's artificial intelligence, and it's making decisions in real time about your access. Before we didn't have AI, we didn't have the computing power to do that. It wasn't possible, right? Like the amount of logins that would have to be processed and thought about, I mean, it wasn't possible. I mean, it'd take you an hour to log in. Well, guess what? No provider is going to wait an hour every time they have to sign in. But with artificial intelligence and taking all these signals, we can make decisions. So quickly running through this, who are you? Where are you coming from? I'm going to look at that. What application are you trying to access? Are you trying to go to our corporate internet? Are you trying to go to the EHR system? Or are you trying to just access the web? So depending on what you're accessing, I can make a more informed decision. What device are you on? So you're on a mobile device versus a workstation. Okay, you're on an Edge browser versus a compliant, Windows machine we know. So that's that has input into our decision, and then real
Sure.
time risk. That's really this AI component where it's awesome. It can go back and say, hey, it will learn that as a provider, you go to this rural clinic in Northeast Georgia every Thursday and log in. And over time, it will learn that that's your pattern. And guess what? It'll quit requiring you to log in with MFA every time, right? So super cool from a productivity standpoint too. It'll learn patterns over time, and it makes the security, that zero trust model, part of it is it should just fade into the background and not be super obtrusive. Anyway, looks at those things, it verifies, it goes, hey, you're allowed in. It might say, hey, everything's cool, but you're not in your normal Thursday location. Let's prompt you for MFA. Or it might be
Right.
like, yeah, you just logged in from Georgia, and this login's from Seattle in an hour. It's not possible, block access. Daniel, does that make sense? Like, we're looking at inputs and we're making a decision, and the decision is to trust or not to trust in real time.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah, it seems like the old model was like trust but verify, and so there was like, well, okay, you're a trusted user, you're coming in, and it almost sounds like this is just like never trust anybody ever, always verify that who's coming
Yeah.
in is who they say they are,
Well,
and
we
they're
start
allowed to be
over
there.
every time. We start over every time. Every login, we look at the signals and we make a decision. And so the default is, to your point, we don't trust, and then we let you in. So super, it really works. The other challenge though is this is AI based. Well, the flip side is AI is also in the hands of the people with ransomware and
Yeah, it
trying to
is.
perform attacks and stuff like that. So we'll get to more on that later. But
Sure.
anyway, this is the basic model. We're going to take inputs in real time, and we're kind of make a decision on what to do. And so, okay, great. So yet another two IT guys telling me signals, login, like what in the like whatever. Like why do I care? Right? Well, why do we care? Especially in healthcare, why do we care? I think first and foremost, for better or for worse, regulatory requirements. So we care because data breaches are becoming very public, they're becoming more frequent. Cybersecurity and liability insurance is getting more expensive, just like tail insurance for many providers. That's gone up over the years. It's the same thing. So you have to, you're as a healthcare provider, you're going to have to do some form of zero trust. A cyber liability application used to be like 2 pages and said, do you have antivirus and do you do backups? Today, we do them every week for our clients, and they can run 60 to 100 pages. So, like that's why it matters, because you're going to have that hybrid and remote work. So we specialize in multi-site practices, and typically the providers are moving between those practices, and so that zero trust model is very important there as they move around, that hybrid and moving around kind of work structure of those
Sure.
groups. So zero trust keeps you keeps you healthy there. And then we talked about the whole AI situation. I mean, zero trust is based on AI, and so is the bad guy stuff. So you got to
Yeah.
keep up, right? Your firewall doesn't stand much of a chance. Your firewall combined with your username and password on your local server, that's that's probably not super. That moat and fortress is not what it used to be.
Mm.
Right? So.
You're almost making it sound like it's just like AI just fighting with each other on either side of the, you know.
Well, it kind of is, right? And so we want our zero trust, and we're heavily invested in kind of the Microsoft stack, which has billions of signals coming in a day. So they are training their model to see things. So the other cool thing is, if you implement zero trust in the way that we suggest, you're not an island anymore. So now you're getting not only the signals from your organization, but from hundreds of thousands of other groups, and that's very helpful. So when they see an attack over here that has nothing to do with you, the AI understands it and can help, help prevent it from happening on your side. So
Nice.
this is great, right? Like, so, well, what's next? Like, how do we like how do you do this? So
Hmm.
I think we can all establish security matters, you know. Okay, great. So where's the switch? Where's the zero trust?
Right.
Where's the zero trust switch?
Flip it on.
Yeah, just turn it on. It's fine. Like, cool. Yeah. So turn the firewall off, turn the zero trust box on, and then we're done, right? Well, not so much. Step one, where are, our treasure chest that we talked about earlier? Where is that? So now a lot of the EMRs, EHRs, they're in the cloud, right? They're not on premise. So how do I access them? Does your provider, your EHR, EMR, practice management, whoever, do they have the ability to utilize your Microsoft 365 logins and SSO and all those things? Because
Right.
if you tie them together, then you can do the zero trust thing, right? Super
Mhm.
cool. So when we're working with clients that potentially are thinking about an EMR implementation or change, one of the things we ask now is, can this be part of our zero trust security model? So we got to figure that out. What goes on there, where is the data, and how are we accessing it? And once we kind of pull all those pieces together, we put together an implementation kind of plan and a pilot too. So you also want to roll this out. It doesn't do any zero trust doesn't mean 100% lockout either. So if you don't know what you're doing, you can set this up accidentally where like no one can get in, and that's a problem, right?
Mhm.
And there's
Yeah,
there's
that would
yeah,
be a problem.
yeah, that would be a problem, right? A lot of, it doesn't do your providers any good if every time they go to a conference in Vegas and they're on an airplane, they can't get into anything, or they're locked out constantly. None of that matters. So it helps to have a partner with experience in implementation too, and helping kind of with the training side. You want to have a good experience.
Yep.
And once it's implemented, you need a group that can continue to monitor it. So this isn't a one and done. The firewall
Mm-mm.
you put your firewall rules in for the three applications you want to have access, and then you look at it once a year. Well, this doesn't really
Mm-mm.
work that way. So in this model, there's a couple of different pieces that can be used, in the zero trust world. MFA is the most common. So codes, I get a text code or
Yeah, that's everything.
an authenticator code. That's certainly part of it. Conditional access rules, in 365. That's really, if you want to, the firewall is a box at the perimeter of my network, and in my opinion, is going to get replaced by this this conditional access rule, zero trust, real-time decision, right? So it's a software or an AI based firewall. That's really where this is headed, right? I'm not picking on firewalls specifically, but I don't think they're super helpful, or as helpful as they used to be. So when we're talking about these technologies, MFA, real time, AI and security event management. So Microsoft has a number of technologies that can look in real time at what's going on and make decisions, and you have to have that happening, right?
Yeah,
The
right.
biggest thing is that 0 day exploit, where it's the second you click on the link, things start happening. If zero trust is set up right, so imagine you click on the link, and you like a good person go and put your credentials in the site that you didn't realize was not, wasn't really the login for your EMR, but it looked just like it. Before the fallout can happen, when those credentials are trying to, used across the country at the ransomware, location, well, guess what? Zero trust will catch that and lock them out. So it's not the goal is not to have, I mean, the goal is to have no incidents. Obviously that's always the goal, but the reality is that's not necessarily true or going to happen no matter how well it is. But with zero trust, not only do you have vastly fewer incidents, you also contain those that you have.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So there's this,
Because they can't log in anywhere else because again, there's a whole new set of conditions that have to be met to where they can even log in.
that's right. That's right. So it's the firewall after the firewall. So okay, so now they're
Mhm.
through the firewall. Well, okay, that's not good. I mean, let's talk. That's not. We don't plan for that. But once that does happen, then we can see, oh, this is a high risk sign on, and then we can block it. So from that perspective, I think zero trust can be super helpful.
Well, I was really interested because as we were talking about this and getting ready for this, you were saying this is kind of starting to be mandated on Microsoft's side, but apparently, we've done this for a long time and we have a long, track record of successes of rolling this out for years. So, I mean, could you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. Love the slide here. This guy's conquering the world. Um, so yes, we have zero trust is an evolution, right? Like anything, we used to not really think you needed a firewall, then you had to have a firewall. You kind of needed antivirus, then you had to have it. And so I mean it's just a progression, right? And so we're definitely at the point where implementing a zero trust model is in our opinion a must have. Um, I do think our very extensive experience in the 365 ecosystem is unique because we've been dealing with authentication, which is key to this zero trust model. But the bottom line is we're very good at centralizing all of our logins and connecting all our systems to this one place that then we can have the AI involved in looking and making these real-time decisions with zero trust. That I think that we've had a number of groups, private equity backed startups, and they didn't have anything, right? So for us, it was a blank canvas and it really validated our approach. It was awesome, actually. No, I'm not going to ever name who they are because then the ransomware guys maybe put a target on them. But nothing's foolproof. But in these instances where we started day one with the zero trust model and did everything according to kind of our standards and our way, we have not experienced any incidents. Okay. And any incidents we have experienced we're kind of immediately caught and neutralized, right? So I'm
Mhm.
reluctant to ever say zero because I think that's a little bit of a falsehood. But I do think from our time with implementing zero trust from an environment that had nothing, that's worked very well. The other side of the coin is we've found many practices and they need help, and they've got on-premise servers and just usernames and passwords, and providers have got sticky notes with it is what it is. It's like this
Mhm.
security thing is killing my business because every time I try to log in, it takes 10 minutes and all that kind of stuff. And so
Right.
for those groups, the success is for us to first kind of get the mindset changed that security can make you more productive if done secure, obviously more secure, but also more productive if done right.
Yeah.
So we have a number of groups and they've come to us and they said, we're really struggling with this. Typically, it's unfortunately after some type of event, and we found out the hard way that what we were doing wasn't right. Can you help? And the answer is yes. And so again, that's back to the implementation, understanding where everything is, and having the experience to kind of quantify where everything is and how we work. Specifically with healthcare, we understand intimately kind of how patients flow through a practice and how a provider might work during the day, and RNs and everybody log it in from all these different places, and all that we get, so we can set it up in a way that supports your practice rather than slows it down.
Well, what are some of the things that stop anybody from just rolling this out? I mean, there's obviously got to be, you know, it's got to be done right, of course, but I mean, from what I've seen in the conversations I've had recently, it doesn't sound like a lot of this is in place, even though, companies, Microsoft, are starting to try to make this mandatory. What's the holdup? Like, why isn't everybody doing this?
Well, like anything, it's just time and money, right? Time and money. And so, oftentimes legacy systems are they weren't designed. I mean, they were none of this, server based in office system. to go multi-site, we put up VPNs, which are a technology that we're trying to get rid of entirely. And so it was that corporate network and trying to send it. And there's just not the infrastructure there. These legacy systems just aren't necessarily designed to connect, if you will, to this AI powered zero trust model. That said, most EMRs, AHRs, there's a lot of cloud options. Yes, it a lot of times will require going through a conversion, which is not necessarily fun, but can be done. And we're looking to help our clients roadmap out, hey, we need these legacy systems I mean, they're going to need to evolve, right? And so we try to put a roadmap together to say, hey, over time, here's how we're gonna get there. And part of that's just balancing security with usability, right? So I've said it many times. If you want to completely secure, IT infrastructure, power off everything and unplug it
Right.
and don't touch it. And you're perfect. You're totally
Hmm.
secure and usability is zero.
Right.
The flip of that is just free for all, no passwords. Like obviously that would be super usable and then quickly from a security perspective would go down. So I think the considerations are just back to that implementation phase and having a group that can talk to you specifically as a practice and say, hey, what are your expectations for usability? And
Hmm.
some groups now look, we're not in the like, if a group says, hey, we don't care, we want it all turned off, well, then we're probably not a fit to work together because we do have some level of baseline security that we've got to meet. But
Right.
over time, we can help get buy-in from your organization. I think that's important. Training is
Yeah.
important and all those kinds of things.
Oh yeah, I've added a lot of training resources to the website. We have a lot of learning resources there that are good links and articles and things that I've added over the year as this stuff has started to grow. So,
Good.
and I see a lot of people using those, so that's really good. I mean, I think the buy-in's a big part there, though, right? Like, if there's not buy-in from the top, like, it almost has to be a culture shift. There has to be
Uh,
buy-in at the highest level, and it's got to like kind of trickle down. Because if the providers aren't using the technology, the secure technology, then kind of what difference does it make if everybody else in the company is, right? If they're having to go through the extra
it
security. Does that make sense?
It does. Historically, right, wrong, or indifferent, historically, providers and the folks on the front lines, they see a lot of this as a hindrance to them seeing
Sure.
patients and
Yeah.
doing less encounters in a day. And it's just, I'm trying to get to the OR to my next case. I don't have time to mess with this stuff.
Hmm.
The one thing I would say is I agree with you, but if you will let us kind of walk you through how this could be. The zero trust actually can sit quietly in the background and actually increase productivity because it doesn't bother you as much. For me, we've got biometrics. So I just look at my laptop. It takes my face. I log right. I don't even. It's fine. Like it's totally. It doesn't ever do anything. I just look at it and it opens, much like your mobile device. You just bio in and that's it. And so it sits in the background. It never bothers me. Sure, if I take this laptop and go 500 miles away and I've never been there before and I'm trying to access something strange. Well, when I look at it, it's going to prompt for that next thing. But the point is, it should not interrupt your day if done correctly, right? And so I think a lot of organizations are missing that. They just see it as one more thing to deal with. When I would say, if it was done correctly, not only are you more secure, you're more productive.
Hmm. Okay, so I mean, so say you do have buy-in, say you have got you've got the license, whatever's required. What's to stop organizations from just doing this themselves? Great, we'll just have the office manager just flip the switch, or we'll have our in-house team try to take a stab at it. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? I mean,
I mean, it's experience. I mean, I probably could get on YouTube and figure out how to do like maybe a single bypass heart surgery once, and they might live. But that's not, but I don't want, I want my provider to have done hundreds and have experience and understand all that goes to it. This security thing, there's a rise of like security specific groups that are different from your IT partner. And my take on that is If you have an IT partner, they better also be a security expert. Like it's, so to answer the question, it's like it's not unless you do this every day and have lots of experience across tons of practices, it is just not really possible to have the knowledge and experience to do this in a way that's going to have the highest level of success, right? You might get it right, you might can follow some documentation, but I don't think for this specifically the risk reward is to find a good partner and let them be part of helping you get this put in.
Makes sense. I mean, that's, I guess, yeah, you can Google it and find out what to do or how to do it, but unless you understand the why and you have a comprehensive sort of understanding, it's probably a fruitful and fruitless endeavor, right? Like this is a kind of a wild goose chase that
Well,
have really bad consequences. So,
well, yeah, worse than a wild goose chase. The way you find out you didn't do it right is if it wasn't turned on. So I'll leave with that kind of. So we do a number of assessments and reviews for prospects of their 365 environment and zero trust, and it is there is a trend that those that are most confident in how it's set up are actually the ones we find that are set up the worst. It's I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's you go in and everything is on. It kind of seems like it's set up, but it's actually not. Turned on. And I think that's back to that experience and that false sense of, oh, we did that. It's turned on, and the reality is, yeah, it is turned on, and it's scoped to no users, right? Or the flip side is it's turned on in a way that it locked everybody out, and so we just turned it back off. So that experience is a really big deal, and not even reading the documentation and following the notes and all these products and services, they've got kind of the guides. There's just no substitute for having done it multiple times and just doing it, for a lot of different groups.
hmm, yeah, good. Well, that's great, Edward. I appreciate you sharing that with us today. I think that's a lot of good information. And I definitely have a way better understanding about zero trust and what would matter to a healthcare clinic. So hopefully everybody that's joined us today got something good out of this. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the comments section below. And we look forward to meeting up with you next month at our next webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Daniel. Have a great rest of the day.